Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, Junk Be Gone, and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source here in the Paper Beyond studio. Happy to have you joining us. SEC Media Days get underway tomorrow, so it's the unofficial kickoff of football season. So we're going to talk about Tennessee's football schedule all day, all show. It's going to be looking ahead game by game and asking some questions about each and every weekend in the schedule. So let's get right into it. First segment of today's program brought to you by the Garza Law Firm. Around here, family matters to people. The Vols matter to people. Community matters to people. People from around here share those values. Marcos Garza is from around here. The Garza Law Firm knows East Tennessee. They know East Tennesseans, and they know the local legal system. If you need an attorney for any reason, get in touch with the Garza Law Firm. GarzaLaw.com to learn more. We thank them for being a big part of the Sports Source each and every week. All right, let's welcome in the panelists for today. We have right here Bob Hodge, who has a new phone.
Yes.
We just heard it seconds ago. It's pretty good right before they open. Bob, longtime sports writer, thanks for being here. We have the Sports Animal 99 guys, Josh Ward, Jimmy Himes right here. You can hear them Monday through Friday, basically just one block. You can tune in there. Well, you can listen to them all day, never turn the dial. But these guys are on from noon till 7 p.m., You split it up differently, but people get the gist. And down there, longtime sports writer Chuck Cavallari.
Hey, here's my phone.
Everybody on mute? Everybody good? All right, excellent. Let's start with just a general discussion of the schedule before we dive into specifics, the game-by-game stuff. I want to put some stuff on screen. Let me show you something here. We're going to break this down, just the SEC portion of the schedule. We're going to take a look at lock wins, lock losses, and swing games. All right, and you're sitting there thinking, why has he got some of these? Vanderbilt is a lock win, should be in my mind. I'm putting Kentucky there because history says Kentucky should be there. Kentucky beats you about as often as you beat Florida, which is why I have Florida as a lock loss. Based on history, you would think those are losses. Tennessee has been favored in that game. We've gone in thinking, well, they've got a chance this year, and they always get the rug pulled out from under them. So I've got those as the locks, and then the swing games, LSU, South Carolina, Missouri. Now, part of that was done just in fun. I want to discuss and want to hear your take on what really are the lock wins on this schedule. What do you look at? And we'll start down there with Chuck Cavallari, who's been known to gamble a time or two. If you had to put money on certain games that you say, yes, Tennessee, and we all know there's no such thing as a lock. Upsets happen at sports.
Right.
But we're talking about the strongest favorites on the board for Tennessee. Which games would it be, Chuck?
Well, the low-hanging fruit would be Vanderbilt, correct? I mean, that's what I would think. In preseason, odds I've seen so far, you see Tennessee favored by 17 in that game already. So I would pick that one right off the bat.
That seems small.
Yeah, well, it does to me too. But those games, even like last year, and Josh might remember one that ended up being closer to the point spread, than what you might have thought.
Well, okay. So everybody agrees Vanderbilt should be a lock win.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Should be.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there another one?
Missouri.
That's where my list ends at Vanderbilt, but I can also
I can't
Missouri's
help but
close.
get Missouri out of my mind. That team that couldn't tackle Tennessee, and Tennessee ran for 400-something yards. That game was over after one quarter. And I don't think Missouri's much better than it was last year. So I would put Missouri as a lock win.
It's one of the worst defenses in the SEC. It'll be interesting to see which defense improves more this year, Tennessee's and Missouri's. But, okay, he's got Missouri as a lock. You say no to that. Josh, is Missouri a lock win? Should be?
I think it is, should be, with the game being in Knoxville. And I think they'll probably be better because how could they be worse defensively? But it wasn't close, their ability to keep up with Tennessee. So, I would go Missouri, I would go Vandy, and then I would stop there.
That's it. Okay. Jimmy, do you have another one to toss in, or did you just stop with Vandy and Missouri?
As far as the lock win, that's it.
Chuck, you agree with that?
Yes.
Would you have put Missouri in the lock wins?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so Vanderbilt and Missouri, your lock wins. So we got two. Are there two lock losses, or do you go more than that? Because I'm going to guess everyone here is going to say Alabama.
Right.
And everyone's going to say Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another game on this schedule in the SEC that you would say it's highly unlikely Tennessee will win that game.
I'm going to go with LSU, highly unlikely, even though don't know much about the team. They've got a new coach. Everything's going to be different. I just would put LSU there because it's away. If you could have LSU up here in the atmosphere that you had for Ole Miss last year, it would change my mind a little bit. But I think since it's down there, I don't want to say it's a lock loss, but it's the next one on my list.
Okay, more so than Florida here.
More so than Florida here, yeah.
Okay, is there anybody, I mean, is that it, just those two?
That's it for me.
All right,
Bama and Georgia.
You guys agree?
Agreed.
Okay, so that leaves us 4 swing games for Tennessee. South Carolina, Kentucky, Florida, and who am I forgetting?
LSU.
LSU, who we just talked about. Thank you. Which of those do you consider the most likely loss?
LSU.
Okay, so we got,
I'm with Bob on that one because
and we'll talk about the reasons to fear
Okay.
LSU a little later. But okay, because I'm afraid you were going down that road.
I was.
Okay, there you go. So
Road
I know
less
the answer
traveled.
to a question that's coming later. Chuck, Josh, do you agree? LSU is the next most likely loss?
I agree with LSU. Yeah.
Well,
It's hard for me to get past Florida, guys.
yeah, it is.
because of-
It is me too.
I've
And the
seen it so many
history,
times.
and the history there, and believe it when you see it. And LSU, if Tennessee gets off to a good start, at least you have an open date before you go there, right? And who knows? It may be a noon kickoff. And I know you don't want us to get into that yet, but I also look at some of these, and a lot of these are going to be the point spread is going to be like a one possession game. And those are the ones, to me, that are the toughest to win. It's going to be 6 points or less, maybe even a field goal or less. So that's kind of how I define that.
Okay, so if most people here think it's LSU's the toughest loss out of those swing games, what's the most likely, or the most likely loss, what's the most likely victory? Kentucky
the
or South
swing
Carolina out of the swing games? I'm guessing it's Kentucky or South Carolina, not Florida, correct?
Right.
Yes.
I'm going to go South Carolina. I mean, a lot of people, you beat Kentucky last year, which is the bottom line. You beat them. But, I mean, if you don't catch some breaks towards the end with some of the officiating calls and some things like that, which I thought they were legitimate calls, the officials didn't step in and help Tennessee.
Right.
And I see that team being not quite as good, but close to that again this year. So I'm going to go with Kentucky.
South Carolina's tricky because it's late in the season. They have these transfers coming in. By the way, I bet a bunch of viewers right now are saying, throw Kentucky and South Carolina both into the lock win category.
Which is why we're doing the exercise.
Yeah, which I understand, but I'm hesitant to do that. South Carolina will be a better team, and Kentucky, if they get one more score and they beat you last year, how confident are you now? So
And they came
Kentucky's
in here and whooped
thinking
you 2 years ago.
Yeah, and so Kentucky's mindset is, hey, we're going to get them back, and that's why I would be hesitant. But I would go, if I had to pick one, which one's closer to being a lock, having not seen how the new group does, I would say South Carolina before Kentucky, even though it's late and even though it's on the road.
You guys agree with that?
I would too, and remember Tennessee beat the heck out of South Carolina last year. I mean, it wasn't 28-0, it was 35-0, it was something like that. Now I do think South Carolina is going to be a lot better, and I think the quarterback's going to help them. But I don't think South Carolina is as good as Kentucky. Period. So I'm going to go with South Carolina as the next most likely.
Chuck, you agree?
Yeah, but one thing about that too, South Carolina's away, right? That makes that a tougher game because that is one of the toughest places to play. I know the crowd's not going to be out there.
Well, it's
playing
tough for Tennessee.
What's that?
It's been tough on Tennessee to go to South
Exactly,
Carolina.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and the two of the places I've been that really stand out is Auburn and South Carolina, and I think their fan bases are a lot alike. And if you play there in a night game, that's a tough game to win.
All right, so the way we break it down then, Vandy and Missouri are your sure wins, Carolina kind of on that end. Then you got Bama and Georgia, your sure losses, LSU kind of on that end, which means your true swingiest of swing games would be Kentucky and Florida. So,
Yeah.
okay, interesting. Both of them played in Knoxville. So let's dive into this thing game by game. When we come back on the Sports Source, we're going to talk about what we want to see from Tennessee in their season opener against Ball State. And there are people underestimating Pittsburgh because they lost so much. Is there a real chance for a loss there? Because a lot of people I talk to are already chalking that up as a victory. Let's discuss that next on the Sports Source. Come on back.